What's happening, everyone? Welcome along. Another Inspire and Be Inspired. Weekly motivational conversations with the occasional life hack thrown in for good measure. How are you? If you've happened upon this for the first time, then my name's Andy Ward, and I'm going to be joined this evening by a very special lady who will be telling us all about music and mindfulness. As it happens, it is Mental Awareness Week 2022. And the focus is on loneliness, and the hashtag is I've been there. So we will address that at some point. I'll draw my attention to the comments. Anybody that is watching who would like to ask questions, leave comments, or have a general chit chat as we're going along, then please feel free to do so. You'll see the comments coming up on the screen, and then when there's a break in the conversation, I will come and address your words. We're live every Tuesday evening, and of course it's archived on my audio podcast and on my YouTube channel. Without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest this week, the wonderful, the beautiful Kareen Griffiths. Good afternoon. How are you?
Yeah, it's not the afternoon there though for you, is it?
It is. I'm only an hour ahead of you.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's coming into the evening show. But yeah, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So Kareen joined us after I sent out a call a few weeks ago saying, anybody have any recommendations of people they'd like to see on the show? Anybody like to join me? And Kareen was like, nudging me. Yeah, me. I think we believe that's how it happened, right?
Something like that. Like, yeah, I can help you out.
Good. So we'll begin. I spoke to Kareen for the first time this afternoon when we did a very quick tech test, and I was surprised to hear a Birmingham accent. So before we get into the meat and two veg of the conversation, I think you should tell us a little bit about yourself, really. Do feel free.
Yeah. Well, I like to keep it short and sweet, which is going to be quite unbelievable for anyone who knows me, because I don't normally keep things short and sweet. But I'm from originally from Smethwick, the Birmingham Massive, and lived there most of my life before I kind of moved away and then come back and back to the Midlands type of thing. But yeah, I now run a mindfulness business. Have been running it for the last couple of years and helping people, individuals, whether it be one-to-ones, workplace groups, or even at events where I've been asked to sort of host, all things and ways to be able to help people improve their mental health through mindfulness.
Okay, well, I've got a world of questions, that we will get to. Good evening, Tim. Good evening, anybody else that's with us. As I say, guys, please just say hello in the chat. Let me know you're there. You'll either be watching on my own personal profile, if you're live, of course, or you'll be watching on the Inspire and Be Inspired page. There may be two different chats going on, but all of the replies will come up on the screen. If you want your likes and your shares to be noticed by the platform, then you're better off watching on the Inspire and Be Inspired page. All of your likes do help us get into the timeline of more people. All of your shares help to spread the word. So, Kareen, a very brief intro there for yourself. How did you get onto the path of mindfulness? And more importantly, what the devil is mindfulness?
Yeah, it's even the word really just, I think people are exhausted by just like hearing it and not really sort of knowing what it really means. So I'll start off with like how I got into it. So I kind of discovered it, or it was introduced to me probably about 5-ish years ago when I went through some personal challenges, grief, loss, and I went to therapy for some of that. And in that's where sort of mindfulness was sort of introduced to me. And I started to do that and notice or practice it, and notice that actually it's something that helps you with your kind of stress. It helps you to think about being in the moment more, and at the same time noticing you don't have control of what life may throw at you. So when you go through situations, whatever those situations are, it can really help with that. And then because I've suffered from anxiety in the past as well. So this is before I completely discovered mindfulness. It's something that I really think that's helped me personally from that perspective. Someone who has suffered from sort of mental health challenges with anxiety, panic attacks, all of that. And by understanding how mindfulness works, how that makes you feel, how that you have, we call the breath, and knowing how you use that to reduce stress in your body, the cortisol, and how that affects the brain. Now, it's just kind of part of my toolbox, really. It's part of who I am more than something that is over there somewhere.
Okay, I get
That's kind of how I got into it. And as I noticed, and it's subtle, how it's helped me, I wanted to qualify and teach it. So I qualified for it and started teaching it. And because my background is in change and communications anyway, being able to bring all those elements together has been really powerful, I suppose.
Okay, so listening to that, in layman's terms, is it just being more self-aware, understanding yourself, and as you did touch on, which I'd like to delve into a little deeper, understanding circumstances that you're not in control of, and allowing yourself to let them happen, and knowing that you can change your perception of things. Am I correct in assuming that how you perceive things is ultimately how it affects yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I think that we live in two states. Typically, we either live in the past or we live in the future. But to actually live in the present and be in the present and feel in the present is something that we're not really introduced to or know how to. So sometimes we try and bypass how we feel about something. We try and bypass an emotion or suppress an emotion, and then it may rear itself at a later date in illness.
Okay, right. I get you. So, where do we begin with this conversation? Because I think maybe you can give me the basics, and it will throw up questions as we go along. Hi to Cliff, hi to Pugs. Thanks for being here. Pugs, I'm sure, will have questions and comments to make a little later on. If you hold back on those, Pugs, and Kareen and I will come to you a little later on for sure. Okay, the floor is yours, Kareen. I want to hear your voice. I'm keeping stum.
Okay, so let's do an exercise, Andy.
Okay.
We're going to do a mindfulness exercise. People who feel on the call, on the line, they can do this with me. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just to pick something up that you have close to you.
Okay.
I've got a pen, so just pick up an item. Doesn't matter what it is.
A pen.
Yeah, pick up anything you like. And I just want you, wherever you are, it doesn't matter if you're kind of lying down or if you're sitting down, just take a moment and just sit into your chair. And I want you to just sit back into your chair.
Okay.
Where you are right now, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. You're going to experience it. It's better you experience it than we talk.
And this is everybody else as well. Right, okay.
Okay, so I'm not asking you to breathe well. I'm not asking you to close your eyes. I'm just asking you to just sit with your back against the chair, or if you're lying on the floor, no problem at all. And I just want you to just breathe in and out in no particular way, just breathing in and out, just so that you know you're here. And it's just at the moment, I can see you, Andy, so it's just me and you here, but obviously there's people on the call. And we're just going to sit into that for a moment and just let that silence and that pause just arrive here. And you may think I should be doing something else. You may think that your mind is on the drinks off. Just bring it back to where we are right now. I want you to pick up the item that you have. Just want you to spend a few minutes just looking at the item. So you may have picked up this item many, many times, and I just want you to take a few moments just breathing in and out, looking at the item that you have in front of you. And I want you to just explore it for a moment. Just resting back into your chair, or if you're lying on the floor, just take a few moments to explore this item. I want you to look at the shape, the colour. I want you to explore it like it's the first time, like you've never seen that item before. Really get close to it, look at it with your eyes, look at the reflections. maybe just as you have this item, just hold it in between your hands for a moment. Just close your eyes for a moment. Just breathe in and out. Just relax into your chair. Just feel what that item feels like. Might be something you might feel silly. It's all about just being here and noticing what it feels like just to be in this moment. And as you open your eyes and you look at all the different textures of this item that you've picked up many times before, just breathe, just slowing everything down. Just want you to share with me if there was anything you noticed on that item that you've never noticed before.
Yeah, I actually noticed the writing on the pen. It's a pen that I've obviously stolen from my wife at some point, and it belongs to one of her competitors at work, at her workplace, which I'd never ever noticed before.
Yeah, thank you. And that is like a 2-minute focus exercise that we just went through. What I'm sharing with you there is that what sometimes in life we go through what we feel is a similar scenario again and again and again. You've picked up this item many, many times, but you spent a minute, 2 minutes just to stop and look at something that's familiar for the first time and notice. You noticed, and what did you notice? So mindfulness is a way of noticing things. And you can apply this to items, but through how you see life, and noticing when it's something that's being replayed, and actually look at things like it's a beginner's mind and like it's the first time. And the more that we are curious about that, the more open we can become about something. And it can help us not bring a previous situation to the current situation.
Yeah.
I'm giving you that little real mini exercise to show that I picked up the pen, and what it is, it's just a pen with writing on, and how we can associate like a narrative. Oh, it's a pen, and the pen does this, and it goes, and then my wife, you notice how you talked about the pen and the story. And that's what we do in our lives. We associate situations, we associate stories, it's part of how we live. But how do we learn to actually see things for what they are? And when we learn to do that more, we can stop bringing sometimes assumptions, our biases, all of those things to a situation, because I'm seeing it for what it is each time. What can I learn? What can I be curious about? So every time you practice mindfulness, whether it is in your breathing, in your meditation, because you're learning how your breath works and how it feels to be in that state, you have the opportunity to open up.
Right.
But when you're stressed, we close.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you said there, which was really quite poignant, was about doing the same thing time and time again, bringing preconceived ideas, bringing baggage into scenarios, and allowing that to let go. So that was excuse me, already at the forefront of my mind. Thank you. We a few people are already commenting, saying that they took part in that. Every now and again, I'll draw reference to the people chatting, because we like to make it as interactive as possible. So Stu Miller says, "Thank you for the exercise. I just noticed a crack on the back of my phone that I didn't know was there." Andy, my good friend from Birmingham, says he's holding his vinyl. It feels great. And then Lisa Crampton says, "Sorry for not saying hello. I was too busy hugging my Vaseline pot." It takes all sorts. Greetings one and all. Okay, well, that was a really simple and yet very enlightening exercise, really. So that is mindfulness. So let's get to the crux of the music within the mindfulness. And before we do that, let's focus on the mental health awareness and loneliness. What have you been involved with? Many things this week. You said earlier on you were doing a podcast.
Yeah, so today's podcast was all around trust and how we trust ourselves, and sometimes when people feel lonely, how does trust play a part in that, and how can we be vulnerable? So that was today's chat, and that was quite an interesting one, because some people that were talking and about the fact that they don't trust or they worry about trust, or something's happened to them and they struggle to trust in a situation or trust themselves. I try to explain a little bit about the fact that you're probably trusting more than you know in the world already, but it depends on what significance we put on that. For example, we trust in the fact that you'll go to the shop and there might be food in there. You go to the garage and you're going to get, fuel out of them, but somebody's providing that for you. And we are all interconnected. Somebody's providing something for you. So it's about, when we talked about trust, it's about how you learn more to trust yourself, to be compassionate about things, even if you don't feel like you've made the right decision after the fact. As long as you can trust in that and not rely all the time on external stimuli, what the world is saying to you about what we should do. So trust was quite a poignant one there. And then, tomorrow I have another one with the British Aviation Group. And again, they want to talk about how it feels like for employees in the workplace, loneliness. And actually, you can be surrounded by people and still feel lonely,
100%.
So it's that kind of thing. It is that mental health and how to be connected, how to stay connected. Music, as we know, is really powerful for connection.
Okay, so before we get to the music, talking about the loneliness and the trust, how does one begin to trust oneself? How does one begin to forgive oneself? A word as well, because we're dealing with issues from the past, products. I've said it time and time again on this, talking to people who are a lot more learned than I am. We are products of our environment, and if you've been ingrained with 20, 30 years of beating yourself up, or others beating you up mentally, what's the first steps?
Yeah, I always try to use. It's not a quick fix, so it's not a quick fix for anyone. But I would always start off by using a tool, which is to understand what trust looks like for you. So when I say what trust looks like, you need to be able to know what trust looks like for you, and what is it that you want to see when it comes to trust. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's that visual picture feel like for you in trust? Because if you don't know what that looks like, it's really difficult for you. You're gauging something, but you're not able to gauge it on anything unless you can really articulate or see, what does it feel like what would it feel like if I was trusting a situation, or trusting myself, or trusting the environment. So I think it's really important that we are able to articulate that. And then I would ask you to rate yourself. How much would you rate yourself in the trust bucket, 1 to 5? Are you like I really don't trust anything and trust anyone, or I'm really like that? Or are you a 4, like, well, I feel like I can, but I've got a bit more work to do? Understand your spectrum, because we can be quite good at catastrophizing situations. So understand that. And then I would ask the third question, which is, how far in that gap do you want to, bridge? For example, do you feel like you have the knowledge to trust in the situation? Because this is all about change, effectively. And there's a journey for change. One is to understand what your end state wants to look like, and it's where you are now, and what are those steps you're going to take to get to that change. But you've got to be able to be really clear as to what it is that's getting in the way, what are the blockers, and what are the scenarios you're seeing in your world that comes up again and again and again where you're not trusting. And you need to be really clear of those steps, because it's really difficult. Yeah, sorry,
carry on.
Because it's quite difficult to change something if you're not really clear in your mind as to, sometimes when we say the same thing keeps happening to me, and this keeps happening, and I'm like, okay, should we pick up the pen? Is it the same thing? Or are you applying the same thing as you normally do, which is just bypass the pen? Or are you going to pick it up and look at it? And if you're being curious, what is possible? What is possible in the moment? Because once the moment's passed, like we've just done, that is past. The only thing you can do right now is what's happening right now. Yeah, and you need to be open. Yeah, that's the only thing you can control, and you have to trust in the decision that you're making at this point. And if it's not the right decision that you recognise going forward, that's okay, because you made the right decision at that point.
listening to that, I can automatically jump to conclusions and know that there would be many people who would be fearful of allowing themselves to be trusted because they don't want to go back in that same cycle of trusting, getting their heart broken, being hurt, or whatever. You know, so
that's exactly what
good evening, John. How are you, my friend? Also, Tim, a friend of ours, says, I've always found the gratitude practice is really hard in mindfulness. It would be interested in any tips on getting over that. So maybe that's one to answer now or a little later on down the line.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. All right, so the topic of the conversation, and I'll welcome along everybody again who may happen to be seeing this, myself and Kareen Griffiths, in conversation on Mental Health Awareness Week, talking about music and mindfulness. So we're going to get to hear about all of your skills and how you've put this into practice, but tell us the fundamentals of what you believe it is or what it is.
So when we talk about music and mindfulness, you know, that's what we're talking about now, aren't you? That's what you're asking me. Yes. So there's lots of research to show how music benefits the brain. There's lots of research around that, how it promotes happiness, how it reduces stress, what it feels like when we're together in that, and how it helps with, you know, the brain areas, you know, fires up these areas in the brain, better function for your memory, judgment, kind of emotion, your attention. So this is what music does for us anyway, you know. What I try and talk about when I talk about music and mindfulness is how we bring those sort of components together. And I tend to use mindfulness, music and mindfulness to get people to a place, because some people find it really difficult just to sit in silence, you know, like, okay, let's just be silent, and you know, and then they're like, well, I can't, my mind's whirring, etc., and can't switch it off. So music is a really powerful, as I said, there's loads of research on music and the benefits of music. I tend to use music as a bridge to mindfulness, and sometimes I'll meditate over the music to help people come to that place of silence.
Okay, that sounds like a contradiction in terms, but
so tell me what you mean, the contradiction.
Well, you say you use the music to get to a point of silence. You mean to silence yourself or to sit in silence?
Silence
the voices, as I like to call them.
Yeah, you know, mindfulness isn't about silencing anything. It's about noticing what's going on and being able to point that out and see that. So sometimes people try and push away, or I'm trying to keep everything quiet. We're not trying to keep anything quiet. You're trying to notice what's going on in order for you to pay attention to it and notice what you want to do with that thought, not push that thought away. So if you notice it, I say to people, it's like clouds, look at it as clouds. Oh, I notice I'm thinking this, I'm thinking that, okay. But it's not going to go away potentially, but you're calming it like a snow globe. Use a snow globe. When you're stressed, heightened, the snow globe's all moving around. But when you have mindfulness, you use your breathing, you reduce the stress. The issues just maybe sit at the bottom. You can see it, but it's not gone away. That's the difference. It doesn't always go away. So you're not trying to get away from anything here. You're trying to notice it, and then you can pay attention and your intention when you notice. But when it's all cloudy, you can't, can you? Because everything's in front of you. When you shake the snow globe because you're stressed out, how can you pinpoint what you want to pay attention to? Yeah. Right. So you use that as an analogy to help people understand that that's what you're trying to do. The more you pay attention, the more you can set your intention, the more that you can action, but you know what you want to action.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw a movie, just you saying that just jumped into my head. And there's it's called The Accountant. I'm going to try to slaughter this analogy now. Gentleman, he has a mental condition, and he has to sit in a room listening to really, really loud techno music. And that helps him calm his mind, and he has to. It's quite extreme. He rubs like an axe handle up and down his leg, the pain, just to help calm himself down. Absolute extreme. So that's using the noise and the pain to actually bring serenity to himself. That's probably a really extreme, I guess.
And the music is, sometimes people listen to music to be lost in music.
Mm-hmm.
But with mindfulness, you're listening to the music and you're listening to the notes, the tones, the shapes, the voices. So you're not listening to it in maybe your typical, if you're like into music, like, I'm off that, I'm dancing, I've gone off into, love this tune, da-da-da. You're actually sitting and listening to it. Mm-hmm. for the shapes, the notes. So when I'm using music as the bridge, it's a mindfulness exercise for people to how you're listening to that music and what's coming up in that moment. And I tend to sometimes use music that's not something that someone would maybe typically listen to, so that you don't become too familiar in it and that you actually listen to it really. And that's really brilliant. Listening exercise, I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges we have in communication, is actually learning to listen to people. So music I use typically as a real good bridge. When I say a bridge, to help people understand, okay, we're going to go, we're going to be in this present quiet moment, but sometimes you can't just get there. So I'm going to take you on a journey to get there. You use the music, you use the meditation, or you listen to the notes, the sounds, the shapes, and you're sitting in that silence per se, because you're starting to listen to what the notes and the track is, and the voices and the tone. And that is how you're exercising the mind. You close off the track. You're ready.
Wow. So that does sound very much like I've listened to meditation podcasts, and you're talking to where people use the voice to do the same thing, and you're analysing your body, analysing your feelings, taking yourself within. And so that's the same kind of, do you use the music? Do you is there dialogue over the top of the music as well? Are you narrating at the same time if you were having a class with somebody? Or
I'll start, typically I do a little bit of narrating, let there be silence, a bit of narrating. So you're giving people an opportunity to have some space in that moment. So you're not narrating through the whole thing and just talking over that. You're giving people an opportunity to listen, stop and listening to that. The music's on, you're listening to that, you're pointing out pointers. You're kind of coaching people through the journey in a way, so that they know what to do in that moment with the music, and how it feels in the body, and how it feels when music is in the body. But I have also used it when you want people to notice when they're judging something to do with how it feels. So when I say how it judges something, is some people judge music, that track isn't really my kind of thing, and it's not really what I would listen to. And I use that as well to notice how easy is it for us to, when we're feeling quite in an emotional state, to judge situations. Mm-hmm. So it's to sometimes sit with that, what can be a bit uncomfortable if you're listening to something that you don't typically listen to. And that helps you then practice that exercise so that you know what to do when music isn't around, because music isn't always around. If you're in a situation where we're talking now, you're not going to drop on some music when we're talking, or if you're in a meeting, or if you're feeling uncomfortable about something, you don't have the tool of music around with you. So you need to be able to know how you feel, which I call the anchor, the breath. Mm-hmm. And you need to be able to pull on that. So music is I would say, a really good practice to help with your mental health, to help with mindfulness. It's a really good practice.
And would you prescribe a set amount of minutes per day, or a session per week, or generally people in everyday life? How do you yourself conduct it?
Yeah. I would say a minimum of 10 minutes a day.
Okay.
Minimum of 10 minutes a day. And it doesn't have to be mindfulness and music. If you do mindful music, great. But once you start to understand mindfulness a bit more, you'll be able to see how you can do it when you're going for a walk, or when you're having a meal, or, you can use mindfulness exercises in all of these scenarios. You just, obviously you're taught how to do that, but you're, again, how to eat, again, you slowed yourself down with the focus, then you do the same with the food, smells. And so you're connecting to your senses, because when you're really in tune with your senses, you notice what gets in the way of you maybe thinking clearly. if somebody's drilling outside you, like the first thing you do is, oh, got that noise already. It's got you. But if you know how to sit with noise, there's silence in noise. I says there's always sound in silence, is what I say, because if I sit here in silence now, I can still hear something. The laptop whirring, pipes in the house. So there's sound in silence. So it's just knowing what silence feels like for you to sit in silence, hypothetically, but there is always sound in silence.
So the takeaway again from all of this, coming back to try and get it, but put it into my battered brain, it is all being very self-aware, understanding yourself, understanding the surroundings, and coming back to what Tim had said earlier about the living in gratitude for everything that you have and everything that you're working towards, that you want to achieve. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, and it's really important for us to understand that mindfulness, the whole essence of mindfulness is actually a Buddhist tradition, basically, is all about reducing suffering to self, to reducing suffering to you. That's what it's, that's the premise of it all, really. If I'm okay and I'm calm, self-aware, kinder to myself, the likelihood is I can be more kinder to you. Yeah. But if I'm not happy with myself and I'm angry about things in myself, or I'm frustrated, the likelihood is that it comes out with you. And then, so it's me, self, then you, interpersonal, and then there's the collective. So that's the essence of it. And then what's happened is, with the science has been studied behind it. So people are really intrigued about the science and how it can be used. So it's used in sport now, footballers use it for reducing distractions when they're playing football, increasing their focus. Okay. That kind of thing. So it's used in sports, meditation's used a lot, that they practice that, so that when you're playing football, you notice what's getting in the way. And so that's why it's used for performance now. So lots of scientific evidence around all of that. But the essence of it comes from that tradition. But in the Western society, it has been studied for scientific.
Wow. Every time I speak to people, I always try and remember these memes that we see online so much. And there's one, I can't pull it from the back of my mind. It was saying, I'm sure you'll correct me. And they say, it's something about my character is who I am, or my personality is how I treat you. Something like that. Do you know what I'm saying? And that comes around to what you were saying about how you are within yourself and how you deal with other people. If you have angst, if you're anxious, if you're in a bad mood and you're trying to deal with somebody and you're not in the right frame of mind, your attitude towards them is going to be completely different than if you were at a happier place within yourself. And us as a society, we need to understand that sometimes, that it isn't all, the world doesn't revolve around us, and we do have to give other people the benefit of, we don't know what they're going through, and be mindful of everyone else's well-being. I don't know if I actually made a valid point in all of those words that I just strung together there.
Well, that's the whole thing, we always have to think that we need to be saying something a certain way, and how we say something, and how does everything sound. And I always say, to, like, with anything that's sort of like mindfulness or wellness, that if you're looking after yourself, you in life, we shouldn't really have to spend so much time analysing who we are, what we're doing. We shouldn't feel we have to do that. Remember, there is a societal system that makes us feel like that. So the more that you are comfortable with who you are within that, and know that you're not just living to those choices that's being bombarded, that you're making your choices the way you want to in that moment, and you're comfortable with that. That's what, in my world, mindfulness allows you to do. It allows you to live with your choices and be okay with them, whether it be a great choice or not. It's like, that's the choice I made at the time. As long as it's not harmful to others. Well, the premise of mindfulness is, and all of the principles that sit with mindfulness, patience, generosity, gratitude, compassion, trust, those are all of the things, the attitudes that mindfulness is. So when I said to you about it becoming from the Buddhist tradition, and people are like, oh, well, if you're spiritual and, well, don't want to know, if it's all stupid. It's like, well, actually, no, those are like the attitudes of mindfulness. If you're more patient, if you are more trusting, if you are more gratitude, if you have more compassion, and you know how to live this to yourself first, how can I trust myself more? How can I be more patient? How can I trust and be more generous? To me, then I'm like, I fill up the bucket. I can be more trusting of you. But if I don't fill up that bucket, if I'm not patient with myself, if I get frustrated with myself because I didn't do something, then you come and I'm already, you haven't got no chance.
You've got a chance. Well, it sounds to me like you've already described my own journey over the years when I've had issues to deal with along the way, with whether in work or in promoting events or whatever. It definitely reminds me of my own journey that I'm more than aware of. Let me just say hi to Emily. John Smith says he enjoys melancholic tracks as well. It's important to have an affinity of feeling and embrace how you feel with music. As the man like Bob says, when it hits you, you feel no pain.
No, 100%. Yeah, I'm a super fan on that.
Also, we are honoured to have Nicola Farnhill with us. Good evening, my love. A former guest on the show. And she says, yes, I love this emotional intelligence. Nicola was an incredible guest and had some really, really great pearls of wisdom to share with us a few weeks ago. It's nice to have you with us. Thank you for passing through. And Emily says, I loved going to church as the music got in my head and in the zone, and it helped me to meditate and rid myself of any negativity. Well, that's it. Well, you mentioned about people poo-pooing, if that's the right word, spirituality, people poo-pooing religion. But if it brings you that calming feeling inside, then who are we to question anybody, really? Absolutely. If it's right for them?
And also, one of the attitudes of mindfulness is about non-judgment. Being mindfulness is you're not there to judge people. It's not to judge. So, whatever way you find peace or that kindness or compassion to yourself in order to do that for other people, it's not for me to judge that, So I think that it's about not having this real prescriptive, do this, don't do that. Everybody has their own sort of individual transformational journey, and there are principles that sit kind of within that, and it is a journey of self-awareness. It's about how do you draw on these things in the moment, not after the fact. So your intention when you're making a decision, that a lot of the time that you are there when you make that decision. Here and here, as opposed to, because you're stressed out. So if you're stressed out, it's really difficult to make those decisions, So what you're doing is using the breath, we call, to regulate the system, because that's where you go to in order for you to have that pause. So when we were just doing that exercise before, and I just said, okay, let's just take a moment, and because I could talk to you till you're blue in the face about all of this, but if you don't know how to regulate the breath in order for you to give you that pause, for me to ask that question or be curious, it won't be relevant. You have to practice finding that place, the breath, your breathing, like that. Like it's intuitive to me to sit into that and go and let the space happen before I respond. It's intuitive now. But sometimes people think, I've done that there. Like I say, sometimes that's why music's brilliant as this bridge and exercise. But if you were trying to get to that space, but the music isn't there, how are you going to get there? Well, it's your breath, because the breath is always with you.
Wow. It's science. You get get inside people's heads. I love it. If anyone has any questions as we're going along, then please feel free, and I'll shout them out as we're going. On your website, on the Calmify website, calmify.co.uk, you mention about a lot of the work that you do in the corporate world as well. So give us a little insight how that can help you, because you must, when you're going into the corporate environment, you are dealing with so many different personalities at any one time. that can't be without its challenges, right?
Depends on what the topic is. So you might have a corporate business that will turn around and say, we want to do some wellness stuff for our people. You do a session with them, you do like a bite-sized hour, and you take people through, mindfulness. They do the exercises, they have a plan, they understand what it means to, okay, when I'm being present, and actually what my body feels like when I just stop for a moment and think. So they, you give them that. Some subjects are a little bit more challenging. So, for example, like diversity, equity and inclusion. So how do you deal with bias in the workplace, especially with everything that's happened? So how do you deal with racism in the workplace, things like that? So mindfulness is... That's a bit tough to try and crack in
like a 3-hour workshop or something.
It's normally part of a journey for an organisation. There's no like pop in and then off you go. It's normally part of a journey that they're going on in order to break.
Not 4 hours. Tuna cucumber. Bye. I'm not racist anymore.
No, absolutely not. It's definitely, you're taking people on a journey. Your people are sitting in that uncomfortable bucket a little bit because they're having to really challenge how something makes them feel. So, and what biases present itself quite easily for themselves. And then how do they come to that with a curious bucket, So definitely in those situations where you have typically white leaders who are trying to make changes, you have to say to them, this is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
This is nothing new. And actually you're giving them some tools to sit with that uncomfortableness. Then you're also supporting the people as well who are being impacted by that, the ethnic minorities who are having to sit in those environments. How do you give them the tools so that they can release the trauma and the stress a little bit when they're working in those environments?
Wow, well, that's... I've got someone else in mind. I'm going to bring you back, and we've got a whole different conversation to have at some point in the future. Let me tell you that I've got a brilliant talk lined up at some point. Okay, so happily chatting along here about music within mindfulness. You recently celebrated a big birthday that you would not stop telling everybody about online. Although in your defence, I actually forgot myself, so it wasn't over the top. We can see some beautiful gifts in the background and a lovely workstation DJ booth there that was constructed by your fantastic husband. Do you tell us then about your more hands-on, your more practical approach when you do go and get involved with what it is that you do?
So this is all just kind of happened in sort of the last sort of 6 months. So I say to people I'm not a DJ, because if as soon as you say like I'm a real DJ, then people might start analysing like, well, that mix didn't go into that very well, So basically,
I've had to deal with that for 30 years, don't
yeah, and I'm literally one of those like I'm just playing what I like, when I like, how I like, and hopefully, if you like it. But no, I decided I've always loved music. And when my brother passed away in 2016, he was a DJ and everything like that. Every birthday, I go and do something with him. My own little personal journey. So last year in the pandemic, I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go and have a DJ lesson. That's what I'm going to go and do. Come on, let's off we go. I'll go have this DJ lesson. And I absolutely enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I was like, oh my God, this is such a fun hobby. Oh, what a great hobby. Because I've always gone to music gigs, listened to gigs, all that whole thing, listen to DJs, all that stuff. Never really thought about putting it together myself or buying tracks and all the technical side. I mean, I know 2 buttons on there, it's fine. So I went to my DJ. I said, oh, this is so much fun. And I was like, this is great. So I've been on Instagram. Right, guys, I'm going to put some tracks on. You're playing, you're having fun on there. But quite a few people on Instagram were asking me, are you a mindfulness DJ? Blah, blah. I said, well, I don't, not technically really, but I do like use music a lot and stuff. So now I'm kind of being sort of, I can't say hijacked because it is a choice. So, when you're being mindful, it is a choice, isn't it? It's no hijacking, but been asked to do sort of more stuff on like wellness wellness retreats, and actually I'm doing a women's retreat in Berkshire in October, where I'm going to be, doing some vibes, doing some mindfulness and music, and just seeing where the world takes me, really. So should I be on here plugging it, going, anybody wants wellness DJ, but not technical?
Wear the badge.
Am I allowed to say it?
Wear the badge.
I'm wearing the badge. The badge is on. So anybody wants to unplug it on your show, anyone wants it, give me a shout for wellness, though. Wellness and day, but I'm not for the nightclubs, I'm afraid.
No, neither am I. None of us are. We're all too old now. And
not doing the nightlife.
Tracks of songs, music style of choice. What's your first protocol? Generally, R&B, house, hip hop.
Yeah, house, soulful house, Afro house. I love a lot of the South African deep house that's coming out a lot at the moment. So yeah, very good for like sort of that deep.
Mm-hmm. I get you. Okay. And do you actually attempt? You said you don't class yourself to be very technical. Do you try and mix, or do you just play the? Yeah, I
do. Yeah, I've got a few buttons on my sleeve. I've got the filter button now up my sleeve, and a bit of the echo, but not too much because I don't want it too overpowering, as my husband told me. But it's too overpowering. So it's quite amusing. I do actually now blend tracks in together and stuff, and get the BPMs and know if a track's like, that doesn't really mix with that one, because one's a 110 BPM and the other one's like a 125 BPM.
Wonderful. And have you gone whole hog with your own Mixcloud page and SoundCloud or anything like that yet, or?
Not on mixes. I'm on SoundCloud for my meditations.
Okay.
Definitely not on for mixes just yet, I don't think. Even though my husband did say to me, I think, you need to do one. I was like, okay, I don't need it. I'm just enjoying, when you're just enjoying your...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, you cannot sit there and tell people about being present in the moment and being mindfulness and you've got to trust. Let me tell you, Kareen.
Oh, totally, yeah.
You have to trust. You have to learn
and it's
to
a good thing. Yeah, and it's great as well because I love the fact that it's in all this mindfulness stuff. There's the stuff that I'm not mindful about. Mm-hmm. I obviously still live my life. I've got a young child. There's times I'm not mindful. Yeah. Absolutely, I clearly know when I'm not being mindful. And when I'm seeing chocolate in the fridge, I clearly know I'm going to be totally mindless.
Well, that is it, learning to forgive yourself and learning to understand that it is part of the journey, isn't it? Yeah. A few comments in the last few minutes. John says, a meditative state is when he feels like all the dust is settling by itself and when he's able to be natural. And when he's not faking it, we often wear many faces except to suit our own. Emily is saying, get yourself on Mixcloud. My friend Pugwash says, were you in London at Louis Vega's launch at the weekend?
I was,
with Ben?
Yes.
You were with Ben Brophy. So Pugwash saw you. Maybe he saw you on a photograph or something, I'm not sure. And our friend Stu Miller, formerly over in Asia, now back in the UK at the moment, he says, a good shout on the South African house. He can imagine that you would love Ralph Gum kind of productions.
100%.
Andy Pandy says, music is the key of life. And then Pugwash makes reference to his show, which is fantastic, at the weekend. He was playing music on air and crying on air, which is good. Yeah, it's good.
That's how we roll.
You got to let your music touch you. Pugwash, I mentioned him earlier. He said he's been talking to some people. He's been through some trauma himself recently, lost his mom. He has some health issues, and he was very interested in hearing everything that you had to say today, which will bring us very neatly back around again to the calmify.co.uk website. If people take a look on there, you offer a few different programs. You offer some discovery conversation, a discovery call. Is that right? Tell us if people, if there's anything that you've said today that's touched someone who would like to reach out to you. How do they begin? What's the next step forward?
So obviously there's the website where it has, a taster session if you're not sure if it's for you, but obviously if people want just a 15-minute conversation, they can DM me on that and, I can give them an overview on that. So there's the one-to-one 8-week program, which is where people go actually on the journey of that self-discovery. And if people want to see the outcomes of that, they can go to the testimonial page, because I think there's probably about 20 or 30 testimonials on there from people who have been on either the group program or individual program, and just their journeys, because that speaks for itself really, more the people who have had the impact of that in their lives more than anything else. And then ultimately you can find me on socials as well. So if you on Instagram, I'm on there normally just sharing some stuff or doing some music or having some fun, and it's just making sure that people feel like you can have fun on this journey, and because it can be heavy, and you want to be able to see light in all of this.
Wonderful. It is very interesting to listen to You said a lot about the science, and I always have things stuck in the back of my mind. It's only when I come back and listen to it and I absolutely absorb it again, when I'm not preoccupied by everything that's going on, it does make a hell of a lot of sense, and I'm sure you will have people reaching out to you. So Kareen will be tagged in the description and in the comments. Maybe at some point we'll get you on the radio show as well. Do a guest mix. I'll do a show on a Sunday. See your face change. See your face change.
Did you see it? I totally. Before I would hide one of those looks, but I literally let people know that actually
there was no hiding that at all. Then
I never do that now. When I don't know who mentioned it on the call, saying you have different personas. I was like, oh no. The persona all comes in one package now. You get a ray of sunshine, and then you might get a cloud just coming right straight over. Yeah.
Fantastic. So how does this work in your relationship without going too deep? Do you and your partner both practice this together? Do you ever have these deep conversations? Does it ever get to the point of, don't try all that on me now?
No, he's put like that anyway, because he suffered from depression, my husband, so he understands the importance of minimizing stress and stuff like that and going through that journey together. So, but I definitely, he probably does it in his own way with his own things, like nature especially. He's really into nature, so he will be out with the birds, listening to bird song and all that. That's his kind of thing. I love nature too, but I don't tend to go and listen to the birds on my phone like he will. But I would say that obviously our temperaments are quite becoming more similar as time's gone on. But I would say I would not talk to him and try and teach him sort of mindfulness, because ultimately all he can hear is me, the wife of 20 years.
Does that frustrate you sometimes?
No.
You don't mind?
No, I just feel like you need freedom in your relationships, not conditions. So you just want to feel, I just want us to feel free. And he's like, well, we can help. If you don't want it to, it's fine as well, You have to find your own way, the paths that are right for you, even though you think, well, I know this could help you. It's got to feel right for that person, that connection you have with someone, because it's such an individual journey. You need to feel like that person's the right person for you as well when you're going, on that. So it's got to feel right. So I think he feels like I'm the right person for some things, but I think this part, which actually is better for me, because I would prefer him to go to external, and if you need to have your therapist, it's better that it's with someone else, So you're not carrying that as well. You have to know your own individual capacities and what you can manage.
Yeah. It's very interesting. And then knowing from the conversation that we had earlier, that will be interesting for you for the years to come, that we won't go into now. But yeah, very interesting and exciting times ahead, I'm sure. Do you feel that we covered everything that we were meant to discuss? Because I'll quite happily sit here talking to you all night. And please, guys, if anyone's got any questions, feel free. But I'm conscious of just us chatting for the sake of chatting. Was there anything that you thought we would get to that I haven't managed to ask you? Or do you feel that you've given a good account of everything that you can offer and everything that there is out there?
Yeah, all I would say is just, I say to people, just don't underestimate how powerful it can be. I do class it as a superpower. So don't underestimate it. Don't, maybe cloud yourself with the judgment of that by doing just 10 minutes a day, that's going to make everything okay. Because until you do that process of understanding yourself in situations, it's really quite difficult to make those changes if you don't know when it appears in situations. So it's about living your life mindfully, not I'm doing an exercise and then I'm back.
And it's then about back to my old, yeah.
Yeah, it's how you make it work when the difficulties arise in your life, because that's what it's there for, really, is to help you deal with the difficulties in life. So yeah.
So it is a life. It's a corny thing to say, but it is a lifestyle change, and it's something that you live by permanently. So that
I live by it permanently. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I have and because it is so intuitively now, when I can see when it plays out for me, if I'm in with a meeting with a client and I've gone in with I think I've got everything covered, I don't get the outcome that I'm hoping for sometimes, because I haven't sat in the bucket of curious first time I'm coming in bucket, to what's possible. So I'm definitely, like you say, the DJ thing that you said, I had it completely closed because of the association kind of with my brother and everything, and that the whole cliche of like, oh, DJ. So I had it really like boxed and like, no. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just playing music. And then it's that thing of be open to what's possible, be open to what's possible. And then watch when the world is talking to you in that way. Watch what you can and can't do. And now, it's just always opening that Pandora's box of freedom. So I feel like it's just freedom, really.
Well, there you go. You've definitely opened the box, and we'll get you on a Sunday morning on the radio, sharing your fantastic vibes and that energy.
Thank you. And thanks for having me.
I really do feel that we've covered a great deal this evening. We will get a lot of people coming back, checking out the recording. Stu says, a great show. Thank you both for helping me think about creating a positive focus on the present moment, especially with music, which we all have a passion for. Of course, yes, we are all music people here. And also I want to say hi to Amy. Amy, sorry you missed it, but you can always check back the recording. Thanks for passing through. Kareen, I will say thank you very much. I will leave you to the rest of Tuesday evening, and I will be in touch. Thank you very much. I'll make sure there are links. People can get in touch with you. Please, everyone, do contact Kareen. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks, Andy.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Wonderful. Okay, so short but sweet. Well, I say short but sweet. We were talking for 60 minutes. Really interesting as always. And Calmify, CALMIFY, calmify.co.uk is Kareen's website. You can find her on Instagram, as she says, and also we have a lot of mutual friends here on Facebook. I'm sure all of us watching this do. Throughout the course of that conversation, we had a few likes and shares. Thank you very much to Tim, to Pugs, hi to Sean and Dawn. And then we've had a few followers through the week on the Inspire and Be Inspired page. I put a post on my Facebook earlier thanking everyone that has been participating, that's the word I'm looking for, on the YouTube feed. We are getting more views, we are getting more people subscribing to the channel, and we're getting a lot of minutes watched. It's all about me enjoying the conversations that I'm having and hoping that more people can get to see them. No ulterior motive than that. So if you do enjoy what you see and you aren't subscribed over on YouTube, then please do go and subscribe. Next Tuesday, we're back talking all things music. It's going to be another Soulful House Mafia conversation. And I'm excited to be talking to Mr. Tom Wainwright, and we're bringing Craig Bartlett back on as well, because Craig does love a live stream. And Tom was somebody that I bumped into at the Southport Weekend a couple of months ago. Hadn't seen him for a long, long time. A legend in the UK, and we're going to be hearing all about his rise to superstardom in and around the Manchester area and far beyond. So that's going to be next Tuesday, 6 o'clock UK time. I'll begin at 6 o'clock, a little bit earlier with the summer evenings approaching. I like to get it done and dusted. I know 6 o'clock is early for some people. It's perfect for others. So remember that the recordings are always there for you to check out. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all of the Access members. I'll bid you farewell. Thank you again to Kareen. Thank you again to everyone that commented. You be good to yourselves now.